Batman, issue 55, Tom King, right, and Tony S. Daniels back in the art, one of the rotating artists we have. Um, so, but no, so this was a highly controversial issue of Batman, because of Dick. So this is the issue that is going to set up Nightwing's amnesia that we've been hearing about. There's going to be a big thing going forward in Nightwing's book, and I'm not going to blame King for this necessarily, because I feel like DC are the ones making the call here. The editorial are making the call that it has to spill into his Nightwing's book. Whereas this could just be a story here in Batman, right? Like, they do that all the time. Like, just say that, it takes place between these two arcs in Nightwing. Don't have to worry about it. It's fine.
Well, there's that, and I feel like it's going to inform Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah.
Like, this is coming out the week before Heroes in Crisis. We all know how Bruce relates to trauma. Whether it's his, it's usually never Bruce. It's someone close to Bruce, and that's how you get to him. So I just, like you just said, there's ways to handle it. I appreciate what they're doing, but this whole new persona for Dick, because he doesn't know who he is, we just got a whole new persona when he moved to Bloodhaven. It's like they do this to him all the time.
Yeah, because keep in mind, like, he was Nightwing for a bit in New 52, then he became the Spy. Now he's back to being Nightwing, but a different version of Nightwing, a Nightwing that I preferred as well. I was happy to go back to Nightwing, because I'm not a big Spy guy, so people like Grayson, but it was never my thing, and I was happy that he was going back to Nightwing.
Grayson's a lot of fun. Grayson's a lot of fun, but I understand if you're a Nightwing guy and you want to see him in the tights, whipping around rooftops. I totally get that, because Grayson was completely opposite.
Yeah.
But knowing that King was co-writer on Grayson, I know he has a love of this character because his voice is, dead on. So I don't think, like, this is we always joke that DiDio's always been trying to kill Dick.
Yeah.
And Johns won't let him. I don't feel like this comes from that place. I feel this is exactly like
King, sure, yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing.
I'm not worried about how King's going to treat this. Hey, so yeah, I mean, this Batman issue, despite all the hubbub that it's the thing that's causing the amnesia, it's actually a really, really good issue.
Yeah, I love it almost continues the last issue. That was them and trading, quips back and forth and being almost Batman and Robin again. Like, it's almost like Dick going out of his way to give Bruce something positive to latch onto, because he, being left at the altar. And I love their relationship because it is kind of father and son, but it's also big brother, little brother at times too. So, I like the way King writes that.
He even brings up the wedding that he's there for him. He brings up, we're here, we're the dynamic duo, and there's the jokes are flying kind of thick and thin.
Yep.
He's trying to get Batman to joke. He's like, no, you do the puns, and I'll do the grunting. He's like, that wasn't a great. He's like, was that better? All that stuff back and forth. It was really fun. It felt like classic, Batman and Robin, or Batman and Nightwing, whatever you want to call it. And even when we go to see Gordon, and Gordon's like, this feels familiar. Like, he's like, yeah, this was like back in the day. This was the original Batman and Robin, and that was a nice touch. And it's so effective because the entire book, that's it, because it's cutting between the two things. Of course, it's Batman and Dick, and then it cuts to, of course, KG Beast arriving in Gotham, getting his motel room, setting up, observing, and that it's all building up. And the whole point of the way this works is that the entire issue is like, look at how much of a good influence Dick is on Batman, and look at how important he is. Look at how much you like Dick. No pun intended. And then all this is just set up so you're crushed at the end because he's going to get shot in the head.
Yeah, it's almost it's the cop in the action movie that's like, yep, 1 week till retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, oh, well, something bad's going to happen to him. And sure enough. So I tried to steer from spoilers about this. Like, I had heard the rumors about, like, there was going to be some kind of change and that Dick Grayson was going to have this, change in alter ego and whatever. But I didn't really buy that he was going to get shot in the head. I thought that was just, comic sites, like, playing the guessing game, or it's the rumor mill. So when it actually happened, I was still surprised. Because I would think they would have kept it closer to the vest,
Yeah. Well, they put out that image of him with a scar on his head, so it was pretty, fair play.
I missed
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah,
I didn't see
it
that.
was pretty fair play to make that guess, but even the way it happens, he's in the middle of cracking a joke. He's talking about Napkin Man. He's like, "Oh, does he make
Yep.
napkins? Like, what's going on here?" And then he turned the page, and it's that full page spread of him just getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
And what
A
one of my
dick
favorite
headshot, if you will.
dick headshot, yeah. But I loved like hearing Gordon scream like for help for a medical team.
Yep.
As we see KGB sort of like wrap things up. I'm assuming this is connected to like Bane's master plan. Because he's like
Yeah.
getting everyone together, all these villains to like hunt Batman. And make his life misery. So I assume that he's behind this in some capacity. But beyond that, like I thought it was a really effective issue, just in the slow build up, where it almost works even better when you knew something bad was going to happen to him, because as soon as you see KG Beast arrive at the airport, and it's like the issue is just building from scene to scene of him like staking out the place and setting up and getting his gun ready, and then you mix that with you've got this like worry in your stomach the entire time. The entire issue, you're reading all these quippy moments between Dick and Batman, and you're like, oh no, this is just going to end in blood. This is going to end in heartache, and you're kind of, you're dreading it the entire time.
Well, and there's a pacing to it too, because all the KGB or KGB stuff is in a 9-panel grid.
Mm-hmm.
Akin to Mr. Miracle, and then all the Batman and Robin or Batman and Nightwing stuff almost has this widescreen quality to it because they're double page spreads.
Yeah,
a little bit farther apart.
I like that.
There's a spacing there.
I guess if I'm reading into that, I'd say that the 9-panel grid, kind of like how it should, because Mr. Miracle is about very serious. It's about depression, it's about anxiety, it's about real world things, and it's almost like by separating it in this book, the KGB stuff is the real world terror of what's about to happen, but the Nightwing and Batman stuff is idealistic. It's the cinematic happiness of Batman and Robin. It's the dream. It's the comic book part of it, if that makes sense. It's the fantasy of Batman and Robin, and it's about to be shattered by KGBs too, as a part of at least in comics, part of the real gritty world of it. So that's really effective. The art's really good. There's a couple of faces here or there that are a little bit off, but Tony Daniel is a good artist.
That's Tony Daniel though. I feel like his what's the word I'm looking for? The way that they're posed, he nails Batman and Robin.
Oh yeah.
With
that first
the
first spread with them two running together is a homage to an old panel or an old page.
Yeah, well. And I really like the one page where they're gonna race to see who can hold out longer before they deploy the grapple.
Yeah.
And Dick's already halfway down it looks like the building, and he's head first, and Bruce looks like he hesitated, you know. And so just the way that it's told in art, I think it's. I'm not a fan of Tony Daniels as a writer, but as a artist.
Oh yeah,
I think he's
better
up there.
artist. Yeah, much better artist than a writer. Even just the fact that they're fighting a mummy-based villain. What was it? Phantom Pharaoh. Phantom Pharaoh. It's just a really fun idea.
So it must have been the last issue where he was bringing up Chum, right? Or is that in this one?
No, this one. He mentioned Chum in this.
Yeah, because they were poking fun at the Adam West series.
Yeah,
so you remember those times you used to call me old Chum?
Yeah, that's this issue. He brings up Chum, okay. And then he's like, "I used to think you were being friendly, but then I was like, no, wait a minute, that was bait for a shark. I was the bait."
Yeah.
It's like, I knew it all along, Bruce.
So I was looking for it throughout because that's one of my favorite moments, and it almost looks like Bruce is smiling on that page because it's the one where they're running and stuff. But yeah, and he goes, he goes, well, you never would wash your uniform. So, they're singing each other back and forth. And it just, again, it's the calm before the storm. And I just, I appreciate King putting Batman through hell these last, 2 years.
That's what this is. You could almost argue that his entire run, it's ever since we found out that Bane is kind of orchestrating all this, and that he's like trying to break him essentially. It's almost like a sequel to Nightfall, where Bane's like, okay, that first time didn't work. I'm going to play the long game this time. But if you go back and read Nightfall, his whole thing was that I release all the villains from Arkham so that he has to go through this gauntlet of of catching all of the different, Joker, Riddler, whatever, right? Before he gets to me, and he'll be so weak and broken that I can beat him easily, right? I'm going to mentally break him down. This is the long game of like over a year of like systematically ruining his life, taking away his sidekick, ruining his wedding, like all these different things, so that he's going to be in the worst state he's ever been in by the time that he fights me again. That so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that page that we were talking about, that where Holly reports to Bane,
Mm-hmm.
and there's all the villains around him. I'm wondering if that wasn't as much, theoretical as it was actual.
Yeah.
That he's gotten them to put aside, like, Joker and Riddler are no longer fighting because they know they can finally destroy Batman through this.
Yeah, still question the presence of Gotham Girl in that page, but I'm sure that'll come up at some point. We'll get more on that, but
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, King. I'm already liking this run more than the Snyder run, and I know that's a little bit controversial because the Snyder run had some really, really big moments that were a lot of fun. But I think when you look at the story as a whole, by the time King's done, it's going to feel like one of those. He's changed Batman completely.
I feel like every 4 or 5 issues this comes up, where you compare it to the Snyder run again. And every time we say, no, we like King's run more by this point. What's worth mentioning, though, we're actually officially at more issues. King's run is no longer than Snyder's run is. Yeah. So,
I mean, the double shipping and whatnot, but I just feel, too, like when Johns changed Wally, Wally was never the same after Johns had written that long run. And I feel the same here with King. Like, we're not going to be getting, the conventional Batman. He's going to have some scars, but I also feel like he'll move on and won't be as dark. Because I feel this is, with all the bad stuff happening, I feel like the moral of the story is the more Batman pushes people away so they don't get hurt, the worse off he is. And like all these people, whether it's Selina or Dick or Alfred, they all choose to be around him, on their own volition. And that's what it's going to come to is him knowing that he has this family, regardless of whatever he does.
It's funny. I mean, that sounds like a forced reference here, but it reminds me of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because I'm actually being kind of serious here, because one of my analysis of that show is because the idea that the Slayer is the chosen one, right? And every time one dies, a new one pops up. And we always hear in that show how the past Slayers always died really young, right? They'd last a couple of years and then they'd be killed. And Buffy survives a long time. I mean, she technically dies, but she comes back. But the idea is that she's kind of the best Slayer. She's the better than they've ever had before. And the reason for that, it's never said outright, but the reason for that, quite clearly from watching the show, is that unlike the past Slayers, she's not alone. She has a team, she has a family, she has Xander, Willow, even Cordelia, or later Anya, and she has a team of people around her, not just her Watcher. She has an entire support group who make her stronger. And that's something that all the previous Slayers didn't have. And I think this is what talking about this is making me think of, because that's kind of what we're getting at here, is that Batman might think he's stronger alone, but he's not, and he never will be. And that's an interesting story to tell. It's an interesting thing to explore. So obviously King's run has some stumbles here or there, and there's some people who really just don't like his style of writing, and I get that. That's fine. If you like his style of writing, then you're just kind of out, and that's fair enough. But I'm into it, and I'm liking what he's doing overall with it. Even if we have the odd Poison Ivy arc that's a bit weird or whatever. Yeah,
but then again, I feel like I'm gonna look back at that arc differently after Heroes in Crisis, because I feel that was almost the prequel. Because I keep hearing now, like, the seeds were sown there, and for all the issues we had, it didn't end the way that we thought it would. So
yeah. So no, Batman 55. What are you giving it, Matt?
So great art, storytelling's up there. So this is an 8.5.
I think I'll one up you just a little bit, or half up you, and go with a 9. This was an exceptional one-issue comic book. I have little to fault with this.